What is up, party people? It is another episode of the MLO project, which we just recently learned has made its way down under to Australia. We actually got a broker shout out to them to reach out to us about the MLO project. So that's awesome. And guys, like to be a part of it, be a part of what we're doing because, hey, they love it in Australia, or at least one guy does. And so whenever there's one, there's two. So, my friends, this is a podcast for you. If you have any suggestions you want to come on here, debate, or have a topic that you want us to attack, bring it on because we are ready. And joining me,
anything except for the Super Bowl halftime show.
Except for that, we're not going to talk about the Super Bowl halftime. Thanks for bringing that up, Michael. But without further ado, let me introduce my fearful co-host, and that is Michael McAllister. What's up? Big Mike,
man. What's up? I don't know you can call me fearful anymore after this past week, dude. I conquered my fear of heights, my deathly fear of heights. I took my kids on so many roller coasters in Orlando, which I know that's what we're going to be talking about.
The kiddie ones don't count, bro. The Caterpillar ride does not count.
Dude, my
5 feet up in the air.
I was hands up the whole time. My voice is hoarse because I scream bloody murder. But I had such a good time, and I'm deathly afraid of heights. And for some reason, I think it was because the first night when we went to when we went on the Hagrid, I went on the Hagrid ride, which, by the way, you don't get an appreciation for how amazing like MortgageCon was. Again, we'll be talking about it in a minute, but you don't you don't get an appreciation for that until you stay an extra 4 or 5 days to go on all the rides and wait in lines for all these things. Like,
and realize like what,
dude, the Hagrid line, it never had a line shorter than 3 hours. And there was a girl at MortgageCon that went on it 14 times back to back to back because there were no lines. And so even that ride we went I went on that first night that we went. I had a couple spiked butter beers before I got on, so I was feeling a little loosey-goosey. And I think that kind of set the tone for the rest of the time, because normally I'd be scared shitless my entire time on roller coasters, but had a little buzz going that first night, went on the roller coaster, and then each time after that, I was like, man, that wasn't even a big deal. So anyways,
maybe that's why a lot of people came up to me. They're like, man, Michael was trashed. Like, dude, has he been drinking? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I didn't see it.
Absolutely housed. Absolutely housed.
But if you guys haven't been able to tell, we're going to be talking about our experience at MortgageCon. This is fresh off of our MortgageCon trip last week, where we got to hang out for a few days, and a lot of great people there, a lot of great speakers, a lot of great expertise in the room. Even Luke, like I'll add him to that expert panel of people. And so we're going to talk a little bit about our, kind of some key takeaways that we had. Obviously, won't talk about it because there was just a lot there. But I'll talk about some common themes, some things that stood out for me, things that, stood out for Michael, and just talk about our overall experience with MortgageCon. And we'll just get right into it. So first and foremost, shout out to the entire Empire / MortgageCon team for the experience that they put up. They worked, had the pleasure of being part of the event, and then obviously working with the team up into that, and just seeing all the work, everything that they put into it, and a lot of people don't see what goes on behind the scenes for events. And they did an awesome job, support, making sure everyone knew what was going on and whatnot. And they did a great job. And just straight up, like Michael already touched on it, when you have an event inside Universal Studios and you actually have it in like one of their sound stages, takes a whole different experience. They went all in on the theme, which I thought was great. AI videos. There's an AI video of me, Luke, and Harish battling each other in the Coliseum, which is pretty funny. And they're just great. John, Joe, the whole team, great job. And so, guys, look, if you haven't gone to MortgageCon, it's just a different experience. It's great. And so when you start seeing the post for the next event, which I got a kind of sneak peek at some of the options like that they're going to maybe do it, which will take it to a whole nother level. guys, like, go check it out. Check it out. It was a great experience. And before we dive more into that, Michael, just first thoughts of what kind of what your expectations were going in, and then at the end, like how did you feel?
Yeah, man, it's funny because I've never done, like, we did a family vacation on the backside of it, where we stayed another 4 days at Universal, and I've never done anything like that, like either as a kid or with my kids. And so, so it took me a minute to like remember the conference and remember that that's really
Yeah.
what
Yep.
kicked it off. But then again, I started thinking about it, and it's like, man, having spent 4 days at Universal with my kids after that, after the event, it really gives you an appreciation for like how cool everything about the event is. And the fact, they've got, they had a couple time blocks in the evenings where it was like 3.5 hours of just like the whole park basically to yourself. They
Yep.
specifically, they had the Harry Potter sections of both parks
Mm-hmm.
completely reserved, but even if you wanted to go do other stuff, as long as it was before closing,
Yep. Yep.
your passes got you. Dude, it was absolutely nuts. Like everything that they were able to kind of incorporate as part of this event, unbelievable from the standpoint of just, I know for me personally, like we didn't bring our kids to the first couple days because we planned on doing the event on the
Yep.
back end, and I ended up regretting that. I never thought that would be the case, but I was like, man, it would have been really cool for my kids to have been able to enjoy some of the like
Yep.
no lines on these rides that again during the day were like 3 hours, like
Yep. Yep.
like clockwork. And then freaking the food that they had there, the drinks, the people that they had on stage. I feel like we're getting better as an industry at having the people on stage be more practitioners and more like less hype, less pitch, and more like real value for the people in the audience. And so they definitely continued that trend. So I won't miss it again. I missed it last year. I
Yep.
made sure that I didn't miss it this year, and I won't miss it again after that experience for sure.
Yeah, no, so I did the kind of the opposite. So I brought the family with me for the whole thing. And now during the day, they went and did their things at, Disney World. And then by the time that, they got home, now in hindsight, I probably should have not had them do that, because like by the time we got into like the Harry Potter stuff, like they were already beat and like tired from from the day. But it was cool because like my kids have like an experience that probably a lot of people, or I mean, I've never had that experience of having a complete theme park, rented out so that you don't have any lines, you just get run of the thing. So they literally got to go through Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley and all of those things. See the lines, no nothing, food, drink, dessert, all of that stuff. That's like a once in a lifetime experience to be able to to just experience that. And so that was great. The kids loved it. They had the silent disco line. I don't know if you did that. I don't know when you got to the first. Yeah. So the way they opened up the first night was you had a silent disco. So you went into Universal, they all gave you the silent disco headphones, and they had a DJ just marching us in, but no one could hear. And so everyone was just watching all these, 400 of us just march, dancing. My kids loved it. They were jumping up, dancing like they never, been a part of something like that. So, my son, my daughter, everyone was loving it. The wife had a good time. And so that's the experience piece of it, is that it's one thing to have a more, because look, at the end of the day, it was great. Like the content is, it's mortgage content right now. To Michael's point, though, they had some great practitioners, operators on there. But it's still a mortgage event, so what really stood this apart is where they put the mortgage event in, knowing like, hey, it's a mortgage event, content's going to be the content, but you're going to have a really cool surrounding, and you're going to have more of a captive audience to pay attention. Right. And it was fun. And that was the biggest thing, is they made it fun. And then you had the after experience, like the hotel was great. And then going, being close to Universal and just walking right into it. And that's the experience piece, the networking. And it attracted a lot of cool people, right? People that you wouldn't mind hanging around and talking, business with and stuff like that. Got to meet a lot of, new people, some of the people that I've known for years, but haven't seen for years. just a awesome, awesome experience. And just speaking to, my part in it, with the AI duel is they didn't want to do panels. So they did like these AI duels, granted, not really set up more as a duels. Everyone kind of had their own pitch. And so, Luke and I obviously tried to make it fun, but like Harish, was just doing his thing, and so we didn't really have any like before before interaction, like we didn't like all talk on a call of like, hey, how do we want this duel to go? So we're just kind of figuring it out on the fly. But it was good. It was fun. It's the first time Luke and I had ever, been, other than like the thing that we did at Fuse, but like him and I kind of like competing a little bit, and, in Harish, so it was fun. Harish had a pretty funny AI photo of him putting Luke and I in a headlock to start his presentation, which was good. And yeah, man, it was content, but ultimately, again, it just goes to that experience on stage and everything around it. You guys obviously will see pictures and videos and stuff of people posting it. But the first, going to like the things that stood out. One is, I would say, if I was going to find a common theme, because there's always generally somewhat of a common theme, is that, which obviously is not like some sort of earth shattering or no one's ever talked about, but the focus on stories. But I think it was a little deeper than, and Jamie Miller talked about, he's big on human communication and human one-on-one, but like it wasn't just like telling stories. It was like, don't, with all the noise, all the distractions, all the AI stuff, like don't lose your, and by humanity, I'm not saying it like the way that you say it in movies and stuff, but don't use your humanity in what you do as a professional, right? And so I would say common theme is like, get away from, and stuff that I talk about, Barry talks about, and that's like not being a product pusher, right, or a price pusher. Just be the advisor, be someone that actually is going to solve problems. You do that, you're above most of the competition and in the industry. So a lot of speakers touched on that, but I would say, from an impact standpoint, Kyle crushed it, as he always does. And I've heard Kyle, speak at a couple events, and done a couple events with him. And it's a solid dude in general, just a good guy. But his talk and the way they delivered it was a little different, and he took a different tact. And it's so funny, as someone that grew up going to church, because Kyle, if you don't know, Kyle Draper is a I don't know if he still is, does any type of pastoral work, but he's a former pastor. And so seeing him on stage, like you're seeing, like I see like the shades of like some of my favorite pastors that I grew up engaging and stuff like that, and the way that he does talk was just great. He delivered. He definitely gets my award of the event, as far as like, and granted, I'm going to see all the speakers just because day 2 I had a lot of stuff that I had to get done, so I was going back and forth. But that was great. And a lot of great speakers. Renee did an awesome job. Like Jonathan Haddad, great. He opened up day 2. He did a great talking, telling some stories, and then also touched, and again, just being unapologetic about this being a sales business. So how do you be the most successful salesperson, right? And so, and he wears that as a badge of honor, and he does a great job when it comes to it. So those obviously stood out. But like for you, Michael, like what stood out for you? What was maybe some key takeaways for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think touching on touching on the content piece, because I obviously had so much to say about the experience itself, and still I'm just kind of reeling from that. But I think it's a testament to how valuable the content was that I literally didn't leave the room on the second day. Like it was, whatever time we started was like 11 a.m. or something is when Jonathan started. I did not leave the room until 5:30 or 6, whenever Charlie did I mess that up? It was Charlie
No,
Rocket,
you got it.
right?
Charlie
Okay.
Rocket, right? Yep.
Not Casey Rocket.
No, I was gonna say you just screwed me up, because then I'm thinking, which one was it? Charlie Rocket. Yeah.
Charlie Rocket. All the way up to him. Like I literally did not leave that room, and that is not like me at an event. I mean, I'm the person that goes back to my room and takes naps in the middle of the day so that I can enjoy the evening with everybody. And I did not leave from the minute Jonathan came on board. Jonathan, what I felt like was a theme, kind of in the same vein of like not something that's super earth shattering right now, but very timely and very relevant, was was AI and like the proper use of AI,
Yep.
the amount of reference to like how people were using AI in their business, and the number of like big names on stage that were like, oh yeah, I use GPT for this, and I used past tense GPT for this part of my presentation, or this punchline. Like the amount of like transparency around
Mhm.
that was super powerful. And that's kind of what Jonathan kicked off in the beginning with, was talking about the like access to that type of data that in his past like retail life at Rocket, how they've had access to this kind of stuff for years and years. And on the broker side, we're just getting access to it and super excited about it, but not using it to its full potential. And so he
Mhm.
went through on stage like exactly how the information about his customers that he would feed to GPT, in a like secure way, redacting the right
Mhm.
information, etc., but to be able to generate like profiles and anticipate objections before they happen, to be able to personalize communication throughout the loan process based off of objections that did come up earlier in the process. Like just really, really powerful, practical stuff to kick things off. And so, yeah, Jonathan, that was definitely one of my favorites. Another one was Kyle, as you mentioned. I mean, just anytime he talks,
Mhm.
like I feel like I learned so much about communication, and not necessarily that like there's a bunch of stuff I take away from that like, oh yeah, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, but like just what's possible when it comes to being like a powerful communicator. He's such a testament to that. But what he talked about was the idea, and I wish I could remember it exactly the way that he worded it, but essentially it was like an antithesis to the idea of imposter syndrome, where it's like more of a tendency that we have to like inflate our self-importance and not communicate the things that like our clients need and want to hear from us, because we think we're too good to communicate those things. Like talking about social content and how, a loan officer gets maybe 50 questions throughout the loan process that come up, that come up from start to finish. 50 questions that are typically questions that persist across customers, right? So if I get a customer that doesn't understand how discount points work and needs a elementary breakdown of how discount points work, odds are I'm probably giving that same talk, like that same discussion 4 or 5 times throughout a month, depending on my like closed loan volume in a month. And so that by like that right there is a good example of a piece of content that would be really valuable to your audience. But a lot of people, they don't like, they view themselves in a light that is like, oh, I'm not the type of person that would create that kind of content, or like, no, I want, it's like they have this curated idea in their head of what they want their image to look like, and if it doesn't
Mhm.
align with that, then they won't do it. And just, I hope that there's some sort of recording, or that Kyle gives this talk in another format, to where if you're listening to this, you can hear him talk about this, because I'm not doing it justice, but it was so powerful for me. He even made the comment that he was giving that talk for himself in that moment. I think there were a lot of people in the room that really, really resonated with that. So, yeah, really, like I said, that second day was packed. Chris Vincent went on stage, talked about bouncing back. He incorporated props, which again was just another thing that's like,
Yep.
oh damn, this is another level of communication, something that we all can learn from. But also talking about having strong comebacks, basically, and what type, how do we bounce back? Do we bounce back like a medicine ball? Do we bounce back like a vase, or do we bounce back like a bouncy ball? So that was really cool. AI, the debates, the duels, personally I felt like a couple of them might have been rigged a little bit, but we won't name names or which ones were rigged.
Nope.
But overall, like, fantastic experience. Charlie Rocket to end it all, like getting us all to pull out our wallets and spend more money than we planned
Yeah.
on spending. But for a cause that couldn't have been more worth it. Yeah, I just Just great all the way around. And like I said, I think the biggest testament is that I stayed in my seat the whole second day, even though we were at Universal, and I could have, and the hotel key cards got us express passes, and so I could have been out
Yeah.
dicking around
Yeah.
at Universal all day, and instead I was in that room with a bunch of mortgage professionals, and it was well worth it.
Yeah, and to your point, yeah, and it's. I was gonna make a joke about you not doing it any justice, but I couldn't do it any justice either. Like I agree, 100%. Hopefully they let that one out, because that was a good. It was just it was a good talk, and look, it's hard for me, to Michael's point, like at events, because most of these speakers I've heard many a time, right? Like Renee Rodriguez many times, and a lot of the other players, a lot like Neil, like too many times to count, right? But it doesn't take away from the value and their message. What I liked, and I definitely couldn't do Kyle's justice, is what I liked is that when you take everything as a whole, right? And one thing I forgot to mention, like Milo Draven on the social media duel, freaking crushed it. Awesome. Because
I haven't laughed harder in my life.
Oh, I was cracking up the entire time, because he's real, authentic, and it's basically never apologize for being who you are, right? You're going to attract the right people and whatever. And he leans into the things that people find awkward, or and not him per se, but like people find awkward about certain conversations or certain talk tracks or whatever. And so Milo's like, yeah, it's just the way that he responds to everything is so real and so authentic, and it's just funny. And so that was like a real good, it was a real good level set, I think, for everyone that kind of looks at these things as being a little bit too stuffy, or you have to do that. It's like, no, you don't, right? Like, because a lot of people might look at Milo and be like, man, that may turn some people off, or that may whatever. And he's like, I'm going to be me, and I'm going to attract the right people and repel the people I don't want to work with. And so even did a growth note, dedicated to that, because I thought it was such an important message. But you kind of play all of these things together. And my point is that if you were in that audience for 2 days, and to Michael's point, I didn't see, generally you see like a drop off, like midday, afternoon. So the way they did their event was very smart on when they started, as opposed to like starting at like, super early time. But so hardly seeing a drop off, seeing people leave. But also day 2, and realizing like, hey, this is a full boat, like every day, a 2-day event, and seeing that. But if you're in that audience, like, you got something from everybody. You got something that you can apply. You definitely got one thing. Like, if you went to MortgageCon and you didn't get one thing, then you didn't want to get one thing, you left, or you just decided you didn't care, right? There's just some possibility that you didn't get, even if you knew every speaker, even if you knew, like I said, for me, it's hard because I'm at a lot of events. I've spoken with these people and all that other thing. So, but even me, it's just like, oh, this was something I took notes on. This was something that, I take away from. So if I'm taking away something, then everyone could take some, that maybe have never seen Renee speak, or Kyle, or maybe never even heard with some of them. Right. And so, so you had something for everyone, no matter where you were at in your business, and what your focus is on coming to that. And again, there's a lot of really cool people, a lot of fun conversations, and and getting to meet different people. And again, I can't stress enough, if you're looking for somewhat of that more fun and different event experience, MortgageCon is where it's at, right? Like they did really, really good. And every year they try to do something different, and expand on that. So I'm looking forward to what they get cooking next year. So, even if I'm not, part of the program, I'm definitely going to be, part of the audience, because it was just a
You don't
fun.
think they'll invite you back? You think you
I
bombed?
lost, man. I lost. So I don't think so. But, hey, look, if they do, awesome. But ultimately, I honestly, I have more fun when I don't speak at events, because then I could just chill, and not have to worry about like, all right. And then, let me pace for, 2 hours before or whatever. But yeah, no, it was great. And, for those of you, that are listening to this, that went, do something with what you learned, right? Do something. There was no way you didn't learn something. So with whatever it was, do something with it, because that's the big thing. You invested time, money, maybe you brought your family, you know, did the vacation like Michael and, you know, I did as well with my family and brought them down and like that whole experience. And if you did all of that, make it count for something, right? Or you know, do something to pay back all the money you spent by doing all of that, all of bringing your family down and stuff like that. So yeah, because it ain't cheap in Orlando, especially if you're doing theme park shit. So like it ain't, you know, it ain't a drop in the bucket. So you know, do something with that. But Michael, any final thoughts on the con?
Oh man, I don't know that you were, because it was the end of the second day that they had us voting on the next year like potential topics. So it's not, I don't think it's like a big secret, but I don't remember.
Oh, the location?
Or not the location, but the theme. I don't know about the location, but the theme, they had us vote on the theme, and what was winning when I left on the survey thing was a murder mystery theme. And if I'm gonna be so fucking pumped if that's what wins.
Clue?
That's gonna be
man, I'm in, dude. That like a real life. Oh, that would be awesome. So
yeah. So stay.
No,
tuned,
I didn't even
guys.
see that. I saw the location because one of the locations would be freaking crazy, right? Would be just crazy to do, and I'd be like, they could pull it off doing it. Because I mean, I know they want to like, I don't think the thing is, and this is me speaking, I'm not, they have never told me this, so I don't want anyone thinking like this is where they were, but I just get the feeling that like, even though they could probably be pretty crazy and go to like, you know, 500, I think they got like 400 this year, but like 500, 800, 1,000 or what, you know, they could do that. I think it would lose something. I know that the events I've put on, they've been, you know, like anywhere from like 175 to like 300. So very small ish compared to like normal events, right? That are doing like 1,000, 2,000, you know, whatever. But those people like by like hands down, those are the brokers that come back and say that was like my favorite event because everyone was accessible. I didn't feel I was running from thing to thing. The content was very confined and perfect. So like, I'm not getting overload with ADD and everything else. So like, so I think keeping it at the size that they are, I think is good, because then I think it leaves a little exclusivity to those that do want to come and be a part of that experience. But like the next thing they're thinking about, like I was like, I really hope they do that location. Now, the murder mystery plus that location would be freaking amazing. Like, you couldn't touch it. You could not touch it at all. Yeah. And so I hope that is. And you know, guys, if you're listening, I'll do whatever I can to help you guys promote that when it comes out. So excited,
so
excited
make sure that we get invited.
Yeah, make sure we get invited. Yeah, this is my pre, my opening salvo. All right, to being invited. So yeah, man, it was fun. And guys, like if you get a chance, just pay attention to MortgageCon, because I think they'll probably release maybe some clips or some things or recordings. So check out, make sure you're following them on Instagram and Facebook. And when they, I know they shared some of the AI videos of us and stuff like that. So that was fun. But guys, check it out. Don't sleep on MortgageCon in 2027, and they may do even smaller events. I hear, like little community events. So that'd be great as well. So that will wrap it for this episode, my friends. And I look forward to building some more things within, that I learned at MortgageCon with what we're doing at an Empower. And so we just released something called the Broker Toolkit. You guys may have seen an email about that, but there's some cool things that we're doing and some cool things on the horizon. So it's never been a more important time to be a part of what we're doing here, because it's going to be different. It's going to be it's going to be valuable, and it's not going to be freaking complicated, right? And it's not going to be what everyone else is throwing at you. It's we're trying to keep everything simplified, because simple is better these days, because everything else is just, it's more complication than what you're going to get in value. And you're going to spend hours, you're going to spend more time trying to figure out how to use the tool than just simply using it. And so a lot of great things going on. And come check us out, man. You're gonna get some good stuff for that, and you'll see the links in the show notes as well. So on behalf of Mr. McAllister, I am Frazier. This is the MLO Project, empowered by Empower LO, HL4, and different coaching, all three coming together to give you guys all the value that you could ever need. So we will see you on the next episode. And as always, if there's anything that you guys would like to see or someone you would like to see us interview, reach out to us. We would love to have you aboard. So have an amazing day. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care.